So I had a thought over the last couple weeks that I wanted to start doing videos that were more centered on a team I love and something a little shorter, something I could do regularly, and that is what this show is that, and that's kind of a Vikings weekly, more than weekly. It's gonna be more than weekly, less than daily probably. It's gonna kind of happen whenever I feel like making a video. And I came in my Vikings hat. I haven't like ever worn. You can see I can't point. It's dented and all messed up because I don't wear it. It literally probably been like sitting in my closet, and I grabbed it out and now I'm wearing it. And then this Teddy Bridgewater jersey that's from 2015 when I was like 70 pounds heavier, and it's too big on me. But this is what I'm wearing, just to show you that I'm official and I like the Vikings, and I have for a while. And so I want to make this show, and I'm kind of inspired by there's another creator on YouTube. His name's a Funky Diabetic. He does basketball videos. And what he does is he kind of just, talks freely about whatever basketball topic there is. He reacts to different articles that come out, and that's kind of what I want to do in this show is something shorter, something quick. Let me talk about the Vikings because I like talking about the Vikings. And so that's what we're gonna do with the show. And this week, I thought the best way to kick it off, a day before the season, on a Saturday, we look at a few of the predictions people have going into this Week 1 matchup with the Packers visiting the Vikings at U.S. Bank Stadium with no fans. Kind of see what the reaction is and what we're gonna kind of get. And it's maybe they have good takes, maybe they have bad takes, and then kind of give my opinion on their takes and my own takes within their takes and that kind of thing. So let's just jump right into it. All right, first thing I'm going to look at here, we got a New York Times article, NFL Week 1 predictions, our picks against the spreads. It's going to be kind of a betting thing, and if you know how spreads work. Written by Benjamin Hoffman. All right, so let's find this Vikings game on here. Am I going to struggle to find it? I think I passed it. I think I saw it somewhere. Oh, Packers-Vikings. All right, 1 p.m. So they have the line set, and I don't know where they get this. They don't say where they get this line from, but they have the line set at -3, so the Vikings are favored by 3 points here. What that means usually in the betting world is these teams are equal. We don't know what's going to happen. This team's at home. We're giving them 3 points. That's usually what a spread of 3 means. So let's see what they say. With all of the turnover Minnesota has seen on the defense entering the season, the fact that defensive end Danielle Hunter is listed as questionable for this game should be alarming. Okay, I'm just going to read the rest of this because it's super short, but I already feel like I know what they're going to try to say here. If Hunter plays, the Vikings should be tough at home, even against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense. If he's out, this rivalry matchup could go sideways quickly. So the premise here was a premise that I'm actually not a fan of. I'm not going to straight up say it's a bad take. Obviously, they picked the Packers to win here. They're going to cover the spread, which means it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win. So when you look at something like this, by that they probably think they're going to win. So their premise here is that Danielle Hunter's out. I would guess they said questionable, so this must have been made before the news came out that he was going to be on IR, miss at least the first 3 weeks. So their premise here is that Danielle Hunter not playing means our defense can't stop Aaron Rodgers. And I get it. I get Danielle Hunter is our best defensive player at this point. But like a defense, one defensive player doesn't change the outcome of the game. Does it help to have Hunter? Sure. But, I know there's question marks. We could very well lose this game. I'm not going, yeah, Danielle Hunter's the reason we're going to lose. Okay, so we're going to win. You're just hating. No, that's not what I'm saying. We could lose, but if we lose, it's not because Danielle Hunter's out. We lose because we can't slow down the run. We lose because our secondary didn't perform yet. They haven't figured it out yet because they're all young. Of course, it's very possible that we could see, we could see Cam Dantzler, we could see Mike Hughes, we could see Gladney, and we could see Holden Hill on the field at the same time, and all of those guys are kind of in the same place where we don't know what we're getting. Hughes hasn't played really a full season, definitely not as a starter. Holden Hill hasn't played a full season, definitely not as a starter. And then, of course, Gladney and Dantzler are rookies, and we don't know what they're going to be yet. And they could be very good, and that could be awesome. But there's things at play with our defense that would be more issues. Obviously, we have Eric Kendricks, who is a fantastic player. We have Yannick, who we just brought in. He's a fantastic pass rusher. The rest of the D-line is somewhat questionable. Ifadi Ethenabo is going to be the other end in this game, but though he may be rotated, and we'll see what happens at this point. But I think to say just because Danielle Hunter out pushes us maybe at one time that they were going to win, now Danielle Hunter's out, now we're not going to win. There's more to it. Can our offense work without Stephon Diggs? Will our offensive line hold up? There's lots of question marks, and I think the take that Hunter being out puts us at a disadvantage, and yes, it does, but not to the level at which we go from the team that was going to win to the team that's going to lose. So, yeah, that's kind of my opinion on this. This is not the best take, but I mean, I'm not going to say their pick is bad here because it's possible, just not this. This isn't the reason. Will our offense work? Can our offensive line hold up? Will the other players, will our secondary work? Will our safeties be good enough to cover any problems that our corners might have early on? That's the bigger question mark here. So that's all I got to really say about this one. All right, ESPN article. Packers at Vikings, 1 p.m. Fox. Their spread's at 2.5, a little different here. This is probably more recent. I will assume, I'll read and figure out, but I will assume that this article was made after the Hunter news, and that probably bumps us down half a point. This almost means the Packers are favored to win the game because it's like the home field advantage gives you 3, and we don't even get to 3. So realistically, home field advantage not taken into consideration, which it might not be this year. So we'll see what that means. But yeah, and so are we favored to win? Not really. Yes, but not really. Okay, so let's just read through this, a little more to work with here than the last one. What to watch for? Will Minnesota's Dalvin Cook get a contract extension before kickoff? The running back has no leverage to hold out in Sunday's game and risks not accruing a season toward free agency. But who knows how things will play out as Cook's contract status heads into the 11th hour before game day. Weird take. I think this is a weird thing to be your what to watch for. What does that mean? I don't really know. I thought that was going to be more like in the game, what are we watching for? But okay, so maybe they're saying here that there's a fear that Dalvin Cook is not going to play. And I haven't got that any indication. He's been at practice. I think we need to kind of put the Dalvin Cook contract extension behind us at this point. He might not be getting signed, and it's looking more likely. We bring in Yannick, and you want to pay him and keep him. You're going to have to restructure Danielle. Dalvin Cook probably not getting a contract, especially if you're going to. And this is even a miracle if we can get this done. If we can keep Harris somehow, Anthony Harris in the secondary, I think that's a more important contract to try to get set up than Dalvin Cook. And yes, I know that sounds bad, but I do like Dalvin Cook. I think he is a top 5 running back. But that's the thing. It's like top 5 running back this year can be a top 10 next year, and then some other new guy we've never heard of is a top. Clyde Edwards-Helaire could be a top 5 running back by the end of this year. We don't know. That thing gets changed up so often. You can find running backs, and especially in this year, we know a lot of free agent running backs are going to be available. Dalvin Cook probably isn't a priority at this point, and that's just the fact of the matter. So the concept here that Dalvin Cook could try to hold out in this game is not something really to watch for, and the only case that this would be something to watch for in general is if we end up going, 3-6, or we hit a point of the season where it's like, okay, we're not making the playoffs. Things aren't going to be good for Cook anyway because we're probably losing a lot of games. There's probably not a lot of situations in which he's running the ball because we're trying to come back in games. We're probably passing more often. At that point, does Dalvin Cook do what maybe Danielle Hunter's doing right now, where he's saying, now I don't know if this is the case, this is speculation, but that Danielle Hunter could be doing right now is that, I'm not going to play till you give me a new contract, or, what's the point? More so for Dalvin than Danielle. What's the point of me playing right now? We're 3-6. We're not running the ball. This season's not. The risk of me getting injured is not worth the tape or whatever I'm going to gain from playing. And at that point, he may magically have a tweak that he needs to go on IR for or something like that he ends up not playing. But early on, and especially if we're winning, I don't see any reason he'd hold out. It doesn't work for running backs usually, and he probably sees that. He didn't hold out of practice and training camp, so why would he do it in the season? They say no leverage. There's no leverage to hold out in this game for sure. Why would you want to do this the only way you do this is if you can still get your season toward free agency, like go on IR somehow. But I don't see Dalvin Cook doing that, so this isn't really a concern of mine going into the game, and I think it's surprising they put it as a what to watch for here. Okay, bold prediction. The Vikings will sack Aaron Rodgers 5 times. The Vikings will sack Aaron Rodgers 5 times. I mean, for that to happen, that means you're expecting Yannick to get at least 2. The Packers' offensive line is not, some mega offensive line, so it's not unrealistic, but it doesn't seem too likely. Let me read the rest of this. Minnesota won't have Danielle Hunter, so yes, they knew that. So this was written after the IR thing, but the Packers will realize they don't have a viable option at right tackle. And after letting Brian Bulaga leave in free agency, Rodgers was never sacked more than 5 times in any game last season. Okay, so that's a solid point. Brian Bulaga's gone. That right tackle is a question mark. This would have been a bigger thing if Danielle Hunter was playing. The only case that I think that really matters, yes, I do think Afadi has upside, but if for some reason we're like, okay, we're just going to put Yannick, who's been primarily a left end at right end in this game or in the first 3 games, or just whatever side is convenient for the matchup. And if they decide this week, okay, unproven, question mark at right tackle, let's move Yannick to the right side and try to capitalize on that matchup. That could be a thing, and they should definitely do that. I think that's something they looked into, but if they think he can't play the right side, which I don't know. Is there a difference? Yeah, but is it enough that if someone's talented enough they can play both sides? So Rodgers was never sacked more than 5 times in a game last season, so that's kind of their take here, is that I think their take is less of a Vikings take, and if it is, it's weird. It's more of a Packers take, in that they're saying, oh, the offensive line's not going to be good this year, that they think something that didn't happen last season is going to happen in the first game against a defensive line that they probably are still kind of stuck on that hole. There was immediately after we signed Yannick, there was a whole, look how dangerous this pass rush is, Danielle Hunter and Yannick Ngakoue. Well, now we don't have Danielle Hunter, at least for the first 3 games, so maybe there's still something in their head that we have a dominant D-line, but we have a lot of question marks in Yannick Ngakoue. That's kind of where we're at right now. So it's a bold take, and is it possible? Sure, but that means Yannick's going to have a big game, and the other guys are going to have to step up. And so I wouldn't bet on it unless we're getting some sacks from crazy blitz packages that we're not expecting. This is probably unlikely, especially for a guy who's known to get away and get out of the pocket. But it's possible, but unlikely. Stats to know. Rodgers posted a 50.4 QBR last season, his worst since becoming a starter in 2008. But for the second straight season, he threw for 4,000 yards and fewer than 5 interceptions. He's the only QB in NFL history to do it even once. So I keep seeing this kind of take about Rodgers that this is going to be his big season. He's feeling healthy or whatever, and now he's going to come out with some vengeance and blah, 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 right? People are acting like last season was a bad Rodgers season. It really wasn't. I know the 50.4 QBR, whatever, 4,000 yards is good, and less than 5 interceptions. They were a 13-3 team last year. They constantly get called the worst 13-3 team anyone's ever seen. That's because they won a lot of one-score games, a lot of coin toss games that could have gone either way, and they ended up winning, and so you can't count on that every year. But the reason they were the worst 13-3 team is not because Rodgers was playing bad. It's because, it was a new scheme. The defense had its issues, especially against the run. And the team just wasn't that good. The team around Rodgers wasn't good. Rodgers was not the reason they're bad. I don't know why they think if Rodgers has improved this year, that means the team's improved. Rodgers is going to be the same. That's kind of the case. So, Rodgers can have a good season this year. He can have a good game this game. But if the team around him is not good, they can't win. So it's interesting. Rodgers is important, obviously, but he's never putting up a bad season. He's putting up a good season pretty much consistently. What to know for fantasy, I'm not going to look at that. Betting nugget, it's all gibberish. All right, let's look at the picks. Domovsky, he's taking the Vikings over the Packers by 4 points. That's covering, that covers the spread. And then Cronin's pick, he's taking the Packers by 3, which wouldn't cover the spread. Oh, yes, it would, because the Packers would win. So, yes, it covers the spread. I'm dumb. So, both situations, the Packers don't cover in the first one, and the Packers cover in the second one. So, I think this is something we might see. There's kind of a coin toss, and I don't know. I need to look at the other articles, but so far, as I said, even with that spread, it's like these teams are almost equal, and that's the thing with Week 1. You don't know who's going to win. Of course, these guys are picking. We got FPI prediction, which I assume is some kind of aggregate, and it's at 54% in Minnesota's favor. That is a small margin. That's pretty much 50-50. So, yeah, this is a pretty equal game, and that's the case with Week 1s, but. Yeah, we got it split here, and then the last one had the Packers, so I guess the Packers are up right now in terms of predictions. But all right, let's move on to the next article, final article. All right, final one. We got a Bleacher Report article, and it's a Bleacher Report is, some people love them, and lots of people hate them, such as my co-host on the Extra Point podcast, Thomas. He absolutely despises them. There's a couple of reasons for that, obviously. Bleacher Report, how it's set up is every team kind of has their news feed. And if you go on that news feed, everything's going to be very positive towards that team, optimistic, and kind of picking them to win. You go on a Vikings, they probably won every prediction on that page, and then you go on a Packers page, and the Packers won every prediction. That's just kind of how it goes. This is more of a consensus thing, so I guess it's a bunch of their experts. So let's just take a look at here. We got the DraftKings line. We actually know where this one's coming from. DraftKings, 2.5. So that's probably the official one at this point. All right, and one of the only few acts of unanimity this week, the entire team of Bleacher Report correspondents is backing the Green Bay Packers on the road, even though they're getting less than a field goal from an opponent that won a playoff game in 2019. Okay. So, we got everyone picking the Packers. So I'm curious to see why that is. Why such little confidence in Minnesota? As Davenport points out, home field advantage might not matter much, and a healthy Aaron Rodgers might be well positioned to pick on a rebuilding Minnesota secondary. Okay, so we already kind of mentioned this. Home field advantage, no fans in the stadium. It's got to be something. The Packers got to travel, so we'll see how that goes. Healthy Aaron Rodgers. So I kind of touched on this, but I'll touch on it even more. This is the topic we keep saying. There's something, I think he was on Pat McAfee's show or something like that he said, like, this is the first time in a long time my arm doesn't hurt going into the season. Now, I get the point, and I get what he's trying to say, and I get why people are taking it and running with it, but let's be honest. Do you watch Aaron Rodgers and think, oh, he's missing something? Like, you're like, oh, that arm is not as strong, and he can't make all these throws. He makes the throws. He keeps making the throws. Like, yeah, maybe he gets banged up and he's a little limpy. Maybe he can't move as much, but he still does it. He still does those things. That's why he gets that reputation of being so tough, because he gets hurt and then he still can play. And I don't think if your point here is that a healthy Aaron Rodgers means this team wins. Aaron Rodgers was fine last season. If Aaron Rodgers is healthy or a little banged up, he's still good enough to win you games. It's the team around you. So pick on a rebuilding Minnesota secondary, yeah, maybe. That really is up in the air. It is rebuilding, but that doesn't mean it's going to be bad. So it's probably going to be iffy at first, because the young guys got to figure it out. And Mike Hughes and Holden Hill have some experience, but they don't have like major starting experience. So curious. The Packers swept Minnesota last season, but since 2016, the Vikings still have a 4-3-1 edge in this series. That tie hurts. Davenport noted they also have arguably the better team on paper. So the Vikings arguably have the better team on paper. Let me think about that for a second. I mean, I guess there's an argument. Whose defense is better? I think we have more big names, more stars, but then we also have that young secondary that they just mentioned. We also have a D-line without Danielle Hunter. That's pretty much question marks everywhere but Yannick. And then they have Preston Smith, and they have Zadarius Smith, and they have Jair Alexander, who's the best cornerback between both teams. At this point, we have the better safeties. Then on offense, wide receivers, Adam Thielen versus Devontae Adams. Like, Devontae Adams is probably the better player, but, Adam Thielen's fine. It's not that far off. I'd say Devontae Adams is more of a deep threat, so you have that, but he's not really a deep threat. It's close, so I could see why they say arguably here. Offensive line is probably equal at this point. And then Kirk Cousins versus Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback, but I don't hate Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins isn't bad. So this isn't a bad take. They're kind of equal, but maybe we are better. I guess there's an argument to be made either way, and that's why they say arguably. What they won't have Sunday is fans making a ridiculous amount of noise at US Bank Stadium or a secondary that can be trusted at all. They want to keep harping on the secondary, and I could see that's a better take than Danielle Hunter's gone, they won't win. I think the secondary is a bunch of question marks, and how that ends up performing is going to be huge, but also our run defense is going to be huge. And then the US Bank Stadium, amount of noise, fans, blah, blah, blah. Definitely a factor, don't get me wrong, because US Bank Stadium is one of the loudest stadiums. The Skull Chant is crazy. It's one of the better environments at this point to be a home team, and I think not having that is going to be, lots of these games are going to be played almost on neutral ground. The only home field advantage you really have is that the other team had to travel, and they had to stay in a hotel, and they had to fly or take a bus or whatever they did, and you didn't, and you got to sleep in your own bed. So yeah, that's good, and that's definitely a factor, and that's part of it. That's why when you see teams go to London, it's sloppy football, because they were just on a plane for several hours and slept in a new place they've never been in or rarely go. Aaron Rodgers pulling out an ugly game in Week 1 against a division opponent is a phenomenon so rare it hasn't been witnessed since last September in Chicago. I'm guessing that's a bit of satire, because I think he does that pretty often, and I guess that's what they're trying to say here. Will this be an ugly game? I mean, probably. If things go as everyone thinks they're going to go, these teams are going to be pretty equal. And so it's going to be probably another close one, and that's what their whole season was last season. So, fair. I mean, you can trust Aaron Rodgers in that situation. But again, they beat us because of their running game, and they beat us because they could get to Kirk Cousins very quickly and because our offensive line was awful. So there's more factors than just Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers committed late-game heroics in back-to-back Week 1 victories against the Bears over the last 2 seasons. Now he'll go against a defense that remains talented but might need time to adapt to a new-look cornerback depth chart, and a defensive front that swapped out Everson Griffin, Linval Joseph, and Stephen Weatherly for Yannick Ngakoue. All this kind of we already said, but this is a little misleading. We didn't get rid of these guys so we could get Yannick Ngakoue. It kind of comes off that way. And this is just sort of thrown in there. I mean, Stephen Weatherly is good and fine, but he wasn't a big factor. Everson Linval, though, definitely those are big losses and big changes, and especially Everson, but Linval too. We really don't have anyone in the middle who's at this level. The hope was Everson was going to be, Yannick was going to be a replacement for Everson. Of course, now it's kind of more like Yannick's going to be the replacement for Danielle. But, I don't know about our defensive front. I don't know what that's going to mean against stopping the run. Like, maybe we'll still get some pressure in the pass rush because Yannick's very good and we can drop some blitzes. But, yeah, the run's going to be an issue this year, even when Danielle comes back. Like, we were hoping we were going to have Michael Pierce, and we don't. And we don't have Linval. And we have Armon Watts in the middle, and just a various rotation of guys on that line. So we'll see how that ends up working out. There's a little more stability with the Packers, who also have pass rushing talent to exploit a perma-vulnerable Minnesota offensive line. I like that, perma-vulnerable, because I can't think of the last time the Vikings had a good offensive line. I was watching that Thursday matchup between the Texans and the Chiefs, and I could look at the Chiefs line and go, maybe Mitchell Schwartz is having a bad game, but, I'd love to have that offensive line that just seems so intact, that seems solid all the way around, and that's part of the reason they're so good. You look at good teams, they have good offensive line, and we have not. And that's kind of why we get bounced a lot. The offensive line needs to be fixed. If we end up in a situation again where we don't make the playoffs, if we end up in a situation like we usually do, where we go to the playoffs and we don't, if that's just going to keep happening, I say you probably need to blow it up. Don't pay the guys you're planning on paying. Keep some of the guys that are big name. Keep Danielle Hunter, but maybe don't pay Yannick. Maybe don't pay Harris. Maybe don't pay Cook. And just say, what, fuck it, we're going to be bad for a little bit. But let's just make sure one thing, that we have a not perma-vulnerable offensive line. And maybe just build a team around a good quarterback, because Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, who has time to throw, and then just see where that takes you. That's like a huge difference maker that gets overlooked. You can add all the talent you want. You can have all the big names you want, but if your quarterback can't move the ball because he gets hit before he can throw it, before anything can develop, it's all pointless. So get a good offensive line. If it doesn't work, it hasn't working. There's one constant, and it's how bad our offensive line has been. So fix that. So yeah, they said Green Bay. Everyone said Green Bay, but they chickened out, 24-23. Yeah. Yeah. I hate that. I hate one score predictions. So they chickened out. One score means they don't know, but they like the Packers a little bit more. And that's kind of it. So, all right. That's the end of the video. Thanks, guys.